Digital and in the name of the Comforted Project to welcome everybody to this webinar, which is part of a series of webinars that Digital is organizing around the concept of imagining 2029 and what it could look like in terms of digital transformation in the health domain. Today, I'm very happy to have succeeded to gather a panel of very, very emeritus people who actually have a deep knowledge of what we're going to speak about. And I'm also very happy that we were going to have the strategic perspective and the operational perspective in the same webinar.
My name is Margherita Fanos. I'm Policy Officer in DG Connect at the European Commission, and I coordinate the team working in H3, the unit working on digital health. I coordinate the team working on virtual human twins. And I will be presenting the European Virtual Human Twins initiative today. So what do we mean within the initiative by virtual human twins? They are digital representation of a human health or disease state built using software models and data. And they are models designed to mimic and predict behaviors of their physical counterparts. We have a very inclusive definition in the initiative. And the reason why the Commission launched a European initiative on twins is that the Commission recognized the potential of virtual human twins to advance personalized care, which is a core EU priority. So twins can be used to advance medical research, to advance drug discovery and clinical trials. They can be used as clinical decision support system. They can be used for medical education and training. They have several applications in health and care. Another reason that the Commission decided to launch an initiative is that the Commission looked at the ecosystem for virtual human twins in the EU and saw an ecosystem which was fragmented, meaning that there are nowadays several innovators and researchers and industry in the EU working on models, working on twins, but they remain models which focus on a specific organ, on specific types of cells, whereas the ambition is to have one day an integrated virtual human twin of the whole body at different scales, at different levels. So this is the reason why the Commission launched the initiative in December 2023 last year as a framework to support the emergence and adoption of the next generation of human twin solutions in health and care. And you can see the main objectives on this slide: to foster an inclusive and collaborative stakeholder ecosystem, to break down silos and support interoperability of different VHT solutions, integrating them and scaling them up, to leverage the power of supercomputers, to advance research and technology in these fields, to launch a state-of-the-art platform to support modeling across scales of human anatomy, and everything in full compliance with EU values and rules. So this is how we see the initiative. There are four main strands of actions, each one oriented towards different objectives, and I will go into details for each pillar, into the different actions that we have. So I will talk briefly about the ecosystem-oriented action because I know that there will be another speaking coming from the EDITH project. This is the EDITH Coordination and Support Action. It's a project financed by the Commission under the digital program that aims to build an inclusive ecosystem for virtual twins in health and care. And one of the main deliverables of the project that will end in the next few months this year is the roadmap, which is a paper that will identify the building blocks to ensure the clinical application of VHTs. Another key action of the EDITH project was the support to the Virtual Human Twin Manifesto. This is a statement of intent on VHT development, evidence, and adoption in healthcare system, promoting collaboration in the VHT ecosystem. This was, as I said, a manifesto promoted by or launched by the Commission and supported by the EDITH project. It's been by now signed by more than 90 signatories from across the ecosystem, and it lists a series of actions that the signatories support going forward to advance the VHD ecosystem. You can see them on the screen, and we encourage organizations to sign up to the manifesto. So if you're interested, you will find the link at the bottom of the slide. We also have a series of research actions. This is a group, a cluster of 8 Horizon Europe projects. They launched in January this year. And the Commission has funded them with 80 million euros. They focus on different use cases from a clinical point of view. You have psychiatric disorders, you have cancer, you have stroke, metabolic diseases. But they all have in common one thing, which is to facilitate the integration across different scales of VHD models. The Commission also co-funded with 15 million euros this IHI project under the call Predictive Computational Models for Preventive Stroke Management, which included VHD approaches to stroke management, preventive stroke management. So the project is called Umbrella. It has recently been launched. I think it started last month. As for infrastructure deployment actions, we have funded through the digital program a call called Federated European Infrastructure for Intensive Care Unit Data. The aim of this call is to fund the deployment of a federated infrastructure for trusted ICU datasets in the EU. And as part of this project, and as part of this platform, tools for computational models will also be deployed to support a virtual twin of an ICU patient. And this maybe is one of the most visible actions that the Commission has launched within the initiative, again, towards the deployment of infrastructure for twins. This is a procurement action for 24 million euros funded under the Digital Europe program. Basically, the Commission is purchasing a platform which will be made available to users within the ecosystem, to researchers and innovators, to develop, test, and integrate VHD models. You see on the screen the different parts of the platform, what it will include. But as this is an ongoing procurement procedure, I can't share more details than that for now. And finally, we have actions related towards what we call the last mile, so to support the uptake of VHDs in clinical settings. And here we focus currently on involving member states' authorities into the initiative and focusing on regulatory science aspects. And maybe here I can also answer one of the questions that we get asked most. Does the initiative focus on any specific clinical use case? Is there any preferential use case that the initiative supports? And I would say that, of course, we have political priorities of the Commission. So, for example, cancer has been high on the agenda of the Commission for a number of years. And in the political priorities of September this year, we see cardiovascular diseases and preventive medicine and mental health. And I would say the political priorities, of course, give an orientation to the initiative, but the aim of the initiative is also to be very much inclusive. And the ambition is to have an integrated virtual human twin. So all clinical use cases are very welcome in the initiative. This is my last slide, just to say that the initiative doesn't exist in a vacuum. Of course, we have links and collaboration with other initiatives. The two that you see at the center, the Cancer Imaging Initiative and the 1+ Million Genomes Initiative, are managed in my unit in DG Connect at the European Commission. We also have, of course, strong links to the EHDS, the European Health Data Space. And with Destiny, Destiny is an initiative of the Commission focusing on twin of planet Earth. And I've also recalled 2 recent Commission communications, one on trustworthy AI and one on virtual worlds, which are very relevant to the work that we do. And with that, I thank you very much.
Frank Rademakers. I'm a cardiologist, a physician by training. I'm an emeritus professor of medicine at the KU Leuven, and I've had the keen interest over the years of collaborating with patients, not only seeing them, but working with them, and also on AI. And I have a couple of PhDs doing on AI. But what I'll present today, and my major disclaimer, is that I'm an enthusiast about virtual digital twins. Lise Geris is a good friend of mine, so the EDIT project is something that I've also been collaborating on. We are at the moment working on a project within the KU Leuven that we have named Twin Health. It's a digital twin project trying to maximize the health potential of every person from before birth until death, but doing that by delivering informed, personalized co-decision making for every circumstance and context. Now, medicine has progressed tremendously over the last decades, but there are still things that are present here that pose problems. And I'll go over a couple of them and try to enumerate how digital twins might solve some of them. First of all, and we are saying this for 30 years now, prevention is underused. But if you look at the budget that is going to cure and care versus prevention, it's still minimal. So we have to start from unmet needs. We have to look at risk factors that are undetermined or not taken into account. And we have to acknowledge that although we've progressed a lot, there is often still late or wrong diagnosis. And looking at those diagnoses, there's clinical need, there's demand, and there's not a perfect overlap between them. And we should always say there is something that we can call perfect health, but we need to look at achievable health. And that's where the area of unmet needs need to be identified. And when we look at patients and we look at how patients are looking at it, you see here, we often say and we promote things and move them towards end users, but we don't always look at the perspective that the end users are getting. So we need to involve them much more. Another problem currently is that physicians and healthcare providers are overloaded with data. It's impossible to even follow the literature in a specific domain, let alone in a broader domain. We need personalization, it's been mentioned already. And the reason for that it's so urgent to do so, is that because of the overload, we have gone to standardized treatments. We're using guidelines because it's the only way to cope with that overload. But guidelines means that you're really treating the average patient. And we need to move beyond guidelines towards personalized care. We always are saying this, we have limited resources and the number of healthcare providers that are needed are really increasing. Everyone in Europe is faced by that same problem. It's also a budgetary problem, but I think the most important one is humans in all fields of healthcare. And we've had digitization, we've had digitalization, but we really need to move towards a digital transformation where we're using new models. We're moving from an economy of scarcity to an economy of abundance, which are the digital twins, because we can use data which are always reusable. There's also something that I would like to draw your attention to when we're talking about digital twins. We always are talking about humans and humans in the loop and humans needing to supervise, but we also have to acknowledge the fact that humans are fallible. And if you haven't read Kahneman's Thinking Fast and Slow or his last book, Noise, please do so. It's not that humans are infallible. So when we have new technologies, we need to show that those new technologies perform better than the humans. But we can't ask of the new technologies to be perfect because we're not perfect as well. And this is from Osler, a physician of the early of the 20th century. And he already was saying we're constantly misled by the ease with which our mind falls into the ruts of one or two experiences. Humans are led by near experiences, what we saw or looked at the day before. And finally, there's information from daily life missing. We make decisions as physicians on snapshot information about patients, mainly from in-hospital encounters and from testing in hospital. This is from Fritz Kahn from early years, 1924, and he was predicting that by 1940, we would be in touch with all of the patients throughout the world. We know that's not yet the case today because there are many challenges about data, about literacy, about access, interoperability, integration in the clinical environment, reimbursement and return on investment. So there's still quite a bit of work to be done. And finally, when we're taking into account the patient's background, we are not using enough social and environmental context, although those have been shown to be extremely important. So how could digital twins address these gaps? First of all, as I have already mentioned, start with the end users, start with the ones concerned, and those are the patients and the healthcare providers. And we need to really take them into account when developing and devising new AI tools. Gather the relevant information, and I'll very quickly go over what is mentioned in the Nordic countries as Health 2030. They start from the individual in the context, primary, secondary data sources and data requirements. They talk about novel and traditional data, more static and dynamic. This is what we typically use, static data, lab tests, etc. And the more new ones, the genomics, proteomics, epigenetics, linking to medical records can give us that information. There's also behavioral data like diet, sleep, and exercise, but also the more novel ones, the wearable data, social media, digital phenotypes. That's where apps, wearables come into play. There's a demographic, which we can get to by linking to personal data, but there's also the more dynamic ones, commercial, transport, social context, where social media can teach us a lot. And in my opinion, really important, certainly these days, there's the climate, the overall one, which we can get our hands on from public data, but there's also the very local one on noise, weather, air quality in very near the patient, which we can use, which we can link using location information from wearables. And ultimately, of course, we need to do this in a secure, traceable, and transparent environment using the GDPR as the basis. Usually, we're looking at this by just looking at data points. And we've learned that we need to make relationships, but ultimately what we need to do is recognize patterns in these data. And that is not so easy. Interpretation of those vast amounts of data really requires digital twins. Deep digital phenotyping is required here. And that requires mechanistic models and data analysis together, which will bring us from data, information, knowledge to real wisdom and impact. Digital twins will evolve, and this is a stage where we are now, of really interacting between the physical object and the digital twin. But ultimately, in my opinion, these will merge. And I don't think that digital twins of complete humans will be there for the next couple of years, but we can look at interactions between digital twins, and I think that will be, for the near future, a tremendous opportunity. Of course, we need to put it at the fingertips of patients and healthcare providers at the point of care, and we need to make the right decisions for prevention diagnosis, which means that we just not only need to provide the data or the suggestions themselves, but try to nudge the people using them. Because as we know, it's really feelings that change their behavior, not just the cognitive evaluation. So I'll end here by saying that we really need a system that from every input, from every interaction with the individual, we learn. And we feed that information back into a digital twin, which can teach us the right way where to go. And for that, and this is the last slide that I show, we need not only the research, the government and the regulatory, we need input from society and business, bringing all of those four players together to achieve this. Thank you very much.
My name is Frank Emmert Stripe. I'm professor of data science at Tampere University, and I give you a perspective why we are in data science very excited about the paradigm of digital twins. I expected a mixed audience. That's why I give a very brief introduction about the origin of digital twins. Then I distinguish two different types of applications that are fundamentally different. And I have essentially one take-home message, and that is one feature digital twins provide that are different to all other analysis methods used so far. So the idea of a digital twin is widely accredited to Michael Greaves, who described it in a context of manufacturing. So his idea was, let's say we want to produce a car, and the car consists of an engine. And instead of going into the laboratory and constructing physically an engine, how about we create a model on a computer, test certain properties, and once we think we found something, then we go back to the lab and realize that. So back at that time, he didn't call it digital twin, but he called it actually mirrored spaces model. And it's interesting to remark that already when he formulated the concept, he did not speak in a plural form of a digital twin, but he realized we need different alternatives, for instance, of an engine which we design, which results in multiple twins. So when we talk about the paradigm of digital twin, one should always think in a plural form. They don't come in singular. And one remark regarding the background is for an even earlier description of this idea, and that goes back to David Galanter in 1991, where he described the implementation of this idea on a societal level. So even beyond a particular manufacturing or engineering problem, but in general society. And I would like to encourage you to go to his book. It's highly readable, and I think still up to date, very informative about the general idea. When one takes a look into the literature, and when we started about 3.5 years ago, getting interested in digital twins, we found many descriptions of a digital twin, as in the form as you can see it on the slide. I won't read it, but when you go to the literature, you see that over the years, this list essentially got longer and longer. The problem, when you think about it, about your own problem, how do you convert it into an algorithm? We found it not very helpful. That's why we try to come up with a data science definition of it, and we realized that the functional relations between different data are actually crucial. And based on that, we wrote a paper, even with the title, Defining a Digital Twin, a Data Science-Based Unification. And on the following, I will not go in detail in it, but the best way to envision a digital twin is first to realize it is part of a larger system. Because a digital twin itself is just the model that generates data. It does not analyze data at all. The data need to analyze with other methods. And then the results from these analyses again need to be summarized so we have a decision-making system. And the entire system we call a digital twin system. So a digital twin is only part of a larger ecosystem. That's how one needs to see it. Now, before I come to the main message, I want to distinguish two different types of applications. One, let's call it classical applications, and the others, they are more recent because they started only roughly 5-6 years ago. So the first classic application comprise applications in manufacturing and in engineering, and the others go far beyond this, for instance, in health or urban development, supply chain management, or climate research. So let's start with the first type of applications. And interestingly, when you take a look in research papers, you find they have all something in common. So on the left-hand side of these two figures, you see the physical twin, which is either a robot in a factory, or it's like a street, it's a traffic in the street. And then on the right-hand side, you find the output of a digital twin, which results essentially in a video. So for these type of digital twins, you can see what they provide you, because they provide essentially a video, and you don't need complicated interpretations what you are seeing. They are very intuitive. In contrast, this is an example of a digital twin as we study it in our project about acute myeloid leukemia. And what you see here is a network with a dynamic. And the dynamic is given by ordinary differential equations, and it is just one small portion of our whole model. And it's not intuitive at all compared to these manufacturing or engineering problems. And that is also a commonality we find when we look at digital twins in biology, health, medicine, or epidemiology, or even as distant applications as economics, which are, of course, not health related at all. But the commonality is the model consists of a network with an overlaying dynamic, and it comprises a complex system of the physical object. So it's this combination of a network structure with a dynamics. For instance, in biology, when we are looking at proteins, that can be the concentration of proteins that changes over time, and the network comes from the binding of different proteins. So this type of combination is the digital twins we are talking in a health or medical context. Now let's come to the main point I would like to make. What is new with the digital twin paradigm we don't have with any other analysis methods? So in order to appreciate that, let's first take a look, what do we have at hand? Of course, we have statistics started long time ago. And the purpose of statistics essentially is to summarize data. At least that's how it started out. The first purpose of it was we have some data available and we want to summarize them. Then there were several other stages, which I skip, but one phase, I guess everyone is still very familiar, still knows, is the big data phase, which started about in the 1990s. And the difference with this compared to statistics is that assumptions upon which statistical models are based could be replaced by data-driven approaches. So instead of hypothesizing how the data behave, we can use the data itself for estimating certain things and then making predictions. So this is great by itself, right? So we can summarize the data, we can predict data, and there are many different methods available. But now we have digital twins, and the difference is, and there are several, but one I want to highlight is we can now study virtual interventions. And that means we can test what-if scenarios. And let me explain that in the following, what I mean by this. So let's contrast a digital twin with a standard prediction model. For instance, here, a deep neural network. So a deep neural network is trained based on a lot of data, and we can make predictions. And we know these models are actually fairly good in making predictions. But what they essentially do is they copy the history in the data. So everything that is somehow in the data, every event that has been recorded, we can somehow copy. Now, the problem is that these models, the structure of these models has no meaning. We cannot say we want to change the connection between certain components because it corresponds, it has some correspondence with our physical model. We don't know at all how this is connected. And that's why these type of prediction models form black box models. So they are very good in copying the past, but they are not very good in allowing us to make changes for new events. And now comes digital twins. And the model for a digital twin is not a black box, but it's a mechanistic model. And as one example, just imagine we have proteins in a cell, and some proteins bind with other proteins, but they don't bind with all other proteins. So there's a network structure maintained by the interaction between these proteins. And the beautiful thing is now it is also potentially known from some other experiments not related to patients that a certain drug changes the binding behavior between proteins. So what we can do is we can go to the network model and either include or remove certain interactions between models, because a new drug will induce this, and then we can simulate again the behavior of the entire system, and then we can compare it. So this is what we mean by what if scenarios. So one doesn't necessarily go to the clinic and give the patient a drug and then observe what is happening, but you go to the model and you give the drug to the model and you include the changes that it imposes on the network structure in this case, and then you observe consequences. So this allows you essentially to study this effect of these virtual interventions. And of course, that is something not present in any type of black box model at all, because there is no way to change the structure of the black box that would mimic like a binding change induced by a drug. So this is already the summary I have. So overall, when you try to learn digital twins, I would like to say you need to be cautious, because it's like a matryoshka doll. When you look in the literature, many people you make an overuse of the term digital twin. They are not really differentiating between different parts, so you need to be very careful. Another thing is you have multi-purpose for the applications, and I just highlighted one, which is the virtual interventions. But on the previous talk, we have seen the beautiful quote from George Box, which means all models are wrong. Actually, it's incomplete because it continues. All models are wrong, but some are useful. So the beautiful thing with digital twin is, and that is another property, they learn over time. We use more and more data over time. That means we improve the models over time. Yes, the models will still be wrong, but our hope is they will be more useful over time. So thank you very much. That is, I think, all what I want to say in this brief presentation.
My name is Castellanos, and I'm a research assistant in the Center of Research and Technology in Greece. Also, I'm a PhD candidate in Aristotle University of Thessaloniki with a focus on digital twins and health digital twins, especially in vulnerable people like dementia, people suffering from dementia, etc., etc. So let's talk a little bit, because a lot of the former presenters presented the way that what is a digital twin, how it's about the scientific part, how it's about the EU Commission. Let's talk a little bit about the technology of the digital twin and the software and developer endpoint or viewpoint. Okay, so in order to build such a comprehensive model, we focus on several key components. The first one is the data aggregation and integration. So we collect vast amounts of data from, for example, medical records, wearable devices, genetic profiles, and even environmental factors. Integrating this diverse data is essential to create a cohesive and accurate representation of this individual. Also, we go to the advanced modeling and simulation. Using sophisticated algorithms, we can simulate physiological processes to understand how different factors affect the human body. This allows us to predict outcomes and either test scenarios in a virtual environment. Additionally, we can use artificial intelligence and machine learning, which are pivotal in analyzing complex datasets and improving the model over time. They help in identifying patterns, making predictions, and personalizing the twin to reflect individual nuances. We can use real-time data processing. We need to use this real-time data processing to ensure that the digital twin remains up to date. We process incoming data in real time. This immediacy allows for timely insights and responses to any changes in the individual's health status. Finally, a digital twin is all about the visualization tools. We employ advanced visualization techniques to make the data and simulations accessible. Interactive interfaces and 3D models help, for example, the end users or stakeholders to understand and interact with the digital twin effectively. By integrating all these elements, we aim to revolutionize personalized healthcare, enabling proactive interventions and more informed decision making. So moving on to some popular digital twins and what they can learn us, what they can teach us. Okay, Twin Health is one of those ones, which was developed as a comprehensive digital twin that focuses on optimizing individual health by monitoring key aspects such as the nutrition, breathing, activity, and sleep. As Margarita already said, it's about the European Virtual Human Twins. It's a general project or initiative that aims to revolutionize healthcare through personalized care by creating digital replicas of patients that we can tailor the treatments to individual needs. We tend to use in those virtual human twins the fundamental AI models, like advanced AI algorithms that can simulate complex biological processes. And finally, we tend to use health data space for establishing a secure and interoperable platform for sharing health data across different systems and organizations. Our challenge here is to build AI models, for example, that are both accurate and ethical, ensuring data privacy while enabling collaborative research and personalized treatment plans. Finally, we can see Siemens Healthineers digital twin, which is leveraging digital twin technology to bridge the gap between simulation and real-world applications. We tend to go to the real world by creating digital twins that accurately reflect real-world physiological conditions. We can test or allow the clinicians to test the most impactful changes and to simulate and evaluate the effects of medical interventions before applying them to patients. And finally, translate the simulation results into practical treatments to improve patient outcomes. So, if I move on to my next slide, let's see how to develop a person digital twin. What is the workflow for all these? Okay, so here you can see a multitude of steps. Okay, this is just generic steps of from defining the objectives and scope to finally achieving a human digital twin. I will move on to my next slide here. Okay, so let's learn how we can define the objectives and scope. Okay, uh, the purpose identification comes around to 4 categories. It's the personalized medicine, or if we want to make a digital twin to that, by creating a digital replica of individual, we can tailor the medical treatments to their unique physiological characteristics, enhancing efficacy and reducing side effects. We can go to the predictive diagnostics, which will allow us to simulate and predict potential health issues before they manifest, enabling for early intervention and preventive care. We can go to a treatment planning. Clinicians can use the digital twins to model different treatment scenarios, helping to choose the most effective approach with minimal risk for the individual. And finally, we can go to the medical device testing. Before applying new medical device, for example, or implants, we can test them on digital twin and reveal potential issues and can optimize performance without endangering the patient. Finally, we need to go specific. We need to go to the scope. We need to have a digital twin for the whole body. We need to go to a specific organ, to the specific systems like the circulatory or the nervous system. This all should be defined. Okay. So let's go back a little bit and go to the data acquisition and integration. How we can achieve this kind of stuff. Medical imaging, for example, is one of the data sources. We can use MRI, we can use CT scans, we can get, meaning that we can get the anatomical and functional images. We can use the EHRs or electronic health records, which they offer a wealth of information, including patient history, lab results, clinical notes. We can use the wearable devices and IoT sensors that monitor real time, as we said, physiological data, which is one of the most important aspects of a digital twin. We can see the heart rate, the blood pressure, the activity levels, and feed continuous updates into the digital twin. This real-time processing of those data ensures that the digital twin remains a dynamic and current representation of the individual state. We can use also genomic and proteomic data, like understanding a person's genetic makeup and protein expressions. This will allow us for more personalized insights into the disease predispositions. For the data integration, we need to go with some standards, with some interoperability standards, like the FHR, Fast Healthcare Interoperability Resources, and the DICOM, which they ensure seamless data exchange between different systems and devices. We can use data fusion techniques, like we need to employ advanced algorithms to merge and harmonize all this data from all these various sources. This can help in resolving the discrepancies and filling the gaps and creating unified datasets in the end of the day. Finally, we have a lot of regulatory compliances that we need to go along, like the EU Data Act, the GDPR, which are some regulations that we need to go there. It's non-negotiable to use all these regulations. And finally, use some encryption and anonymization in order to protect the sensitive information through advanced security measures. So this was about the data acquisition and integration. If we go to the modeling simulation, you can see here that we can use anatomical modeling, which creates a precise digital replica of the human body structure. We can use 3D reconstruction with MRI and CT scans if we go for an organ, or we can use the mesh generation. After obtaining the 3D models, we can generate computational meshes that divide the models into smaller, manageable elements. And we can use physiological modeling, like mathematical models, which they develop equations and algorithms that represent physiological processes like blood flow, neural activity, and metabolic reactions. And finally, we can go a little bit larger, like multi-scale modeling, that we can make the human body and design it and how it operates across multiple stages, from molecular interactions to whole organ functions. We can use all these different modeling techniques, but we have to use software in order to do that. So we can use a lot of simulation platforms, like the industry standard tools like ANSYS and Simulia for high fidelity simulations. And we need to go specific on the programming languages that are very famous for this part, like Python, MATLAB, and C++ for custom model development. And one of the most crucial parts is what AI and machine learning models we can use in order to make everything correct in our part. First of all, we need to go specific about the data analysis. Okay, we can use machine learning algorithms for both supervised and unsupervised learning, for pattern recognition, in order for us to be able to understand a lot about our data. Okay, and then we can apply neural networks, like for image recognition and predictive modeling. And then we need to develop models that can forecast, for example, the disease progression. So we go for outcome prediction, or maybe some responses to specific treatments. And all this should not be under a protocol. They need to go personalized. We need to use personalized recommendations, like predictive insights and individual care plans, tailored medication regimens, maybe stuff like that. So as we said earlier, the real-time data processing is about the data coming in a near or real time intervals. So for example, if we use the IoT technologies like a sensor networks, we can use the wearable devices and all the other sensors from the environment maybe to collect continuous physiological data, as we said, heart rate, blood pressure, and we can use also edge computing to process data locally and to reduce latency of all the predictions and the optimization of therapies. Finally, we need feedback because the end user is not only the patient, it's the clinician or the healthcare practitioner. We need to make adaptive models so it's based on the new data and gives a lot of information to the clinician and some alerts that will notify the healthcare providers or patients of significant changes that happens to their scope of digital twin. Finally, if we could move on a little bit, I would like to present now about the Comfort Age project, which is one of our initiatives for creating digital twin for people suffering from cognitive decline, dementia or Alzheimer via a lot of reasons. So Comfort Age is a very large pan-European framework that is started in 2023, which is based from a community that tries to tailor and personalize prevention intervention strategies to facilitate effective lifestyle changes throughout various stakeholders and various practitioners. Our consortium is composed by 8 research institutions and universities, 11 healthcare organization actors, 12 industry and SME partners, 4 social multipliers associations, and 4...
Stelios, I'm afraid you need to shorten a little bit.
Excuse me?
I'm afraid you need to shorten a little bit your presentation because we are getting out of the time.
Okay. So I'm just then presenting the final steps. So we, in the Comfort Age, we go specific. We go to early diagnosis. We need to go to disease progression. We use a lot of data sources from neuroimaging to EHRs. Our goal in modeling is for disease progression, health trajectory, and optimal treatment planning. A lot of visualizations will happen in our platform about all these visualization analytics tools. We tend to validate and test ourselves in 13 pilots, and we'll use a lot of ethical frameworks, anonymization, HHRs, and encryption in order for us to be able to have the final digital twin and intervention planning.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me the floor and inviting me today. So I'd like to talk about the pathways for increased collaboration of the value chain. This is a bit a vision for the next couple of years, and so I hope you will get what we mean by the lesson learned from this experience as co-leading the sustainability pillar within the EDIT coordination and support action. So my name is Enzo Fabiani. I am project manager at PySchool. So what we basically do at PySchool is doing fast prototyping of AI solutions. And we do a bit of research also to bring our expertise into this kind of project. And here in EDIT, we had many objectives that we worked on. You've mentioned them earlier, and quickly just to say that I will mainly talk about the ecosystem part today. And this is very important in our analysis of the creation of value. Of course, for this work, EDIT had the objective to frame an inclusive ecosystem of these digital twins in healthcare within the EU member states and other associated countries. And to do so, we wanted to show a comprehensive mapping of the existing relevant actors and initiatives and resources. So there are many of them. Models, data set, methods, and also good practices with the right infrastructure to support them and the solution and services that we can provide. I will give a few words about the barriers that we detected, and we had a nice perspective earlier here, but the idea is also to make a nice link with the clinical representation. And all of this is made to foster collaboration. So you have all the names of the partners here that are involved in this project, a beautiful project. And again, we try to start our analysis by understanding what would be the virtual human twin ecosystem. So to do so, we did this mapping here, where we can see the composition, the roles, and the interaction between different stakeholders. So this is not an exhaustive mapping, but at least it gives a basic idea of what we could get by having our European virtual human twin. And we put it at the core of this mapping because, of course, it will be crucial in the collaboration and in the creation of value. So you see there are many arrows here that represent the interaction between different stakeholders. And we can wonder what these interactions are, and if there are pains, and there may be also opportunities to create value. So you can say, oh, let's focus our attention on some of them. So, for example, we can think about trade and non-profit associations that, with a public investment, will assess what they get from the analysis performed through the VHT platform, thanks to the data that they collected with hospital and IT department, made by physicians and clinicians, of course. That will have an impact on citizens. Another focus, another attention could be made on the stakeholders that are in the private or public research labs, or any companies that doing manufacturers innovations, everything that needs support in developing technologies and innovations that can directly go in the hospitals, and that will need some infrastructure to support them, and will benefit to the individual patients with the right legal, regulatory, and standard methods. So this idea of thinking about how we can interact, how these stakeholders can interact, has been also a task that we worked on, especially at my school, with some kind of hackathon activity that we launched for a certain period, where we asked to understand what were the idea to some students and some enthusiasts about this idea to work on what could be the value creation. So just to show you an example, because it makes sense for today, there was this idea developed by a team of students where they worked on Alzheimer's disease, and they tried to develop what could be their value proposition by having virtual human twin platform. And so they get an analysis about what their solution could provide, and what is the socio-economic impact of their solution to the society. So this was very interesting. There was an analysis of how they can develop business models with a business model Canva analysis, etc. And this led to very interesting results. So coming back to my presentation, this was a parenthesis. We know that from the pre-selected use cases that we have within the EDIT consortium, we have seeds for scalable innovation. So we know that these technology can bring clinical decision support systems. They can bring personalized medical products and real-time data acquisition, which is very important for emergency care management. And especially because today the focus was on cardiovascular and other dementia diseases. So we know that this is a step further on just digital twin if we achieve this mission of pushing the virtual human twin initiative. By the way, it brings a lot of key value proposition. To name a few, we have the prediction on healthcare that is more accurate. We expect to reduce medical errors, streamline drug developments, which is a big one, and support personalized therapy. So these and also precision medicine and early detection. So this is, of course, of a big impact for the economy, a big impact for the society, and we know that this is the roadmap also that we've seen from the political decisions that have been made. Of course, there are some costs related to this, about clinical trial costs, about computing costs, certification cost, and data privacy. That can remain some sort of barriers, but I will come back to this point by showing how, by not having just a digital twin, we'll have a better management of this cost. We also know from our experience of the in silico market that there are many. The market is big, and if we just focus on specific application here for pharmaceutical and medical devices, that the market is really big. In that case, it was for UK, but it's just to show you how big the market is already just for in silico. So let's talk about benefit and cost. I selected a few stakeholders here to show what they can be, and we know that for public organization and investor, we have many outcomes, and some of them could be to improve healthcare in general and have a huge potential for public health cost savings. The cost burden can be reduced, and the VHT can boost Europe's into its leadership in digital health. So it can bring very interesting innovation opportunities. For hospital and IT department, we expect that the virtual human twin will streamline diagnostics, will also allocate some resource in patient care, and we know that investing in IT system is crucial for better integration and effective monitoring, even if we know what are the actual issues of this integration today. For research labs and innovators, there will be new research and development pathways, meaning that there will be opportunities for advanced medical products and coupled technology or niche technologies. Finally, for the regulatory and legal stakeholders, we know that there are challenges today around GDPR, IP, and standardization. We know that we must do a work on this if we want to be competitive. So we know that these challenges will bring new markets, and this new market will increase the number of partnerships. And that's the idea. We want these partnerships among the stakeholders that I mentioned before, that we identified in this future ecosystem. And like for healthcare institution, university, and research organization, we have plenty of applications. For technology providers, we know that there are specific tech tools that they can develop. We know that we need also some advices from the different advisors from different fields, and this can be gathered at the same place. Having also infrastructure that are brought to these stakeholders can help the startups develop, access this infrastructure with less entry barriers. And we know that technology transfer and innovation centers will take part of this collaboration by giving some of by facilitating the discussion between every stakeholders. Finally, we've identified, of course, one of the big market for this collaboration with the pharmaceutical companies and medical device manufacturers that can find a single place where they can interact and collaborate. Of course, there are barriers and opportunity for collaboration. I've mentioned them. I don't want to go through it too much, but the idea is to say that we will have some works to do, and to facilitate this, we need to facilitate data use by implementing international standards as much as possible, of course, and an open access platform for collaborative repositories to share non-sensitive patient data. We are doing another work in parallel with the PPP, public-private partnerships, and we know that by having these partnerships, we can co-create solutions together, and of course, design models to build digital twin solutions. The alignment on regulation will also facilitate the market entry and encourage alignment on data ethics and privacy law that are a very big topic in Europe, in EU. And we have also clearly identified some of the most relevant applications of the virtual human twin, which would have with not only its isolated digital twins. So we know that today we have problems into data management and knowledge management. So we can find this solution by having on the same place a hub for data and also for different type of data. I would mention synthetic data and to do cross-reference research. We know also that it can be a place for models and to couple models. And on the other side, we have also all the aspects concerning the infrastructure and the place for collaboration. So by accessing certain specific infrastructure, we know that we are reducing the cost to enter markets and to create value. Also, we know that by having everything at the same place, we can do benchmarking and use the models as sandbox for the development of other models. On the other side, we know that we have a pipeline. We had a nice explanation earlier from Frank that said that these digital twins are not just a single item, and there are many blocks inside it. And we know that by having everything at the same place, we can do some tests with the workflow we are using. And for other stakeholders that are not developing the technology, but are helping as intermediary businesses, we can accelerate the certification process. We can expect to have a better compliance checks because it will be at scale, and credibility checks too. And finally, we would like to have to facilitate the digital clinical trials that can help assess mass effects on custom twins of citizens, and that can run systemic analysis and prevention campaign, which is also in the priority of the EU. Finally, a last slide about the hurdles and opportunities in this digital health ecosystem. So I've mentioned the technical challenges, I've mentioned the economic barriers because due to the high development costs, and there are also issues regarding the regulatory and policy aspect, not issues themselves, but more in the harmonization of all of it. And we know that all of these challenges are just creating more opportunities for the EU member states, and we have to work on this if we want to maintain innovation growth as we are doing today for healthcare. Thank you.